Do you have a child or a student who talks out of turn, won't follow directions, always needs to do things their way? Before labeling them as difficult, let's consider if they're actually gifted. Hi, my name is Nina. I'm a licensed educator in Illinois, and I help parents and teachers understand gifted learners. Today, we'll explore how some disruptive behaviors might actually be signs of giftedness and what we can do about it. So many gifted kids are misdiagnosed with behavior disorders or labeled as troublemakers. This misunderstanding leads to undersupport, many discipline issues, and emotional harm for the child. Recognizing the root cause of these behavioral problems that look like behavioral problems can really change everything for the child, the parent, and the teacher. So, the first thing to look out for is if they're constantly interrupting. It might look like blurting out answers, not waiting their turn to speak. If you look at this from the gifted perspective, this might just mean that they have a fast processing speed, they're excited to share their ideas, and they are probably worried that they're going to forget what they wanted to say. So, some things that you can try if you're a teacher is to allow for wait time or an idea parking lot. So, you can have a little journal for the student to use to write down their ideas and maybe share them with you at the end of the day or at a time when it's appropriate. Or if you know that it's a time when they're going to be tempted to blurt things out, maybe giving them a sticky note to write ideas down so that they're not so tempted to blurt out in case they might forget. The next thing is it might look like arguing with adults. So, students who talk back, challenging authority, or questioning rules that you might have at home or rules that you have in the classroom. Now, if we look at this from the gifted perspective, they actually have advanced reasoning, justice sensitivity, or critical thinking. So, something that we can do as grown-ups, as parents and teachers, is to encourage respectful debate. Don't shut it down. Let them be curious. Maybe explain why we have certain rules in place. Sometimes it can look like non-compliance or refusing to do their work. They might be labeled as defiant or lazy or disengaged, but really, if they're a gifted student, they might be bored because the content in the classroom is much too easy for them. And the other side of it could be perfectionism. They might have a hard time getting started because they feel like what they do won't be perfect enough. And so there we're looking at an issue with internal motivation for their desire to be perfect, and sometimes it doesn't turn out like that. Something you can do is to offer choices when it comes to assessments, having things like choice boards or different options for them to work on. Something else that you can try if you're a teacher is to offer complexity when it comes to problems. This might look like giving them a word problem to work on or providing a real-world connection. For example, a child that's already mastered a skill in math might not need to do 30 problems to show their teacher that they know it. Maybe giving them one problem to do and then a word problem or some kind of math task to work on might help them out. The other thing to think about is how we're using homework. Gifted students might not need to do an extra 30 or 40 math problems to practice their skills because they might be ready to move on to above grade level tasks. So that's something else to keep in mind. The other thing is emotional outbursts. It might look like they're having a tantrum or crying or having really big reactions to things that seem small, but if you look at it from the gifted perspective, they're showing emotional intensity and sensory sensitivity. Those are very common things that gifted students show, but it can present itself in a negative or problematic way in the classroom. Something that you can do as a teacher or as a parent is to validate their feelings, not the behavior, but the feelings, and to teach them emotional regulation strategies. Having a calming corner can be a really useful tool for teachers. The other thing that it could look like is distracting others. If you have a child that's constantly talking to someone next to them during class time, they're joking around, they're daydreaming, they're doing anything they can to get the attention from their peers. If you look at it from the gifted perspective, they're thinking very quickly, they're seeking stimulation. It kind of goes back to being bored in class. And it also might be an issue of asynchronous development. So, for example, a gifted 6 year old might have the vocabulary and comprehension of a 10 or 11-year old, but the fine motor skills of a 4 year old. They might have a hard time writing things down on paper, but their understanding and comprehension is really high. So, some things that you can do to help students with this is providing a partner to work with if they prefer to work with a partner, maybe a partner who is better in some areas than they are and they can learn from them. Another option is to let the student work on independent projects if you see that they have surpassed and gone beyond what you're teaching in the classroom. And if the child's already mastered the things that you're teaching in the classroom, maybe letting them pursue an independent project. The other thing that might help is allowing for movement breaks. Some other things that you can keep in mind is don't assume that just because a child is misbehaving that they're disobedient. Start documenting patterns. When do these behaviors show up? During what tasks or subjects or time of the day are these behaviors happening? Use strength-based language. Instead of saying that the child is showing difficult behaviors, you can say that they're creative or curious or intense. The next thing is to work together. Parents and teachers working together can make a huge difference in a child's life. Some things that you might consider are gifted screening, like a COGAT assessment, differentiating things in the classroom, and providing emotional support or even counseling if necessary. So, to summarize, not all disruptive kids are gifted, but many gifted students can become disruptive when their needs go unmet. Have you seen any of this happen in your classroom or in your home? I'd love to hear your experience. Drop a comment below. Like and subscribe for more support around gifted students.